All right, this is the video for December part 3 of the Wednesday Wars. You have 5 questions. What did Holling's dad say when he dropped him off? Why weren't they looking at the tights? So that's a typo. Number 2, why weren't they looking at the tights? What would he do if he wasn't so cold? If it wasn't so cold, how did he say thanks? What happened after they left Mickey Mantle? All right, so the days passed, and the Hanukkah and Christmas decorations in Camillo Junior High started to look a little shabby, and the dress rehearsals were over, and Saturday night came, and I put on my bright yellow tights with the white feathers on the butt, and I put on my jeans over them, and I found the newest baseball I had, and my father dropped me off at the Festival Theater. "Don't mess it up," he said. So that's number 1. And then the Long Island Shakespeare Company's holiday extravaganza began. And while Mr. Goldman played Falstaff from Henry IV, I looked out through the peephole in the wings, and I could see almost every face. And there weren't many, since anyone with any sense was over at the Sporting Emporium. I found Mrs. Baker right away. She was in the center of the 3rd row, sitting next to Mrs. Biggio and wearing that teacher look that makes it seem as if she's about to start slashing at something with her red felt pen. I suppose teachers just get that way. They can't help it. Behind Mrs. Baker and Mrs. Biggio were Danny Hupfer's parents. Really. I guess Danny must have told them about the extravaganza, and they had to come see me play the part of Ariel the Warrior. I guess it didn't matter to them that Bing Crosby Christmas special was on television tonight, the way it mattered to my parents, who would never ever miss it. I guess the Hupfers thought that a Shakespeare debut was a whole lot more important than hearing "I'm Dreaming of a White Christmas" one more time, even though Mr. Hupfer was loosening his tie and holding his hand over a yawn. And I guess you can't look out stage peepholes very long because your eyes start to water and the stuff in your nose gets drippy, and then you have to wipe at them both, and there goes all your stage makeup. There wasn't anyone else from Camillo Junior High that I could see. No one. And except for the very front row, I could see every seat in the theater. Let me tell you, when it was my turn to go on, not seeing anyone from Camillo Junior High made leaping out onto the stage hollering, "What would my potent master?" and wearing yellow tights with white feathers waving on my butt a whole lot easier. I stayed on the knife's edge, and when Mr. Goldman, who was really Prospero, sent me to fetch the traitors, or to terrorize Caliban, or to grieve the king, I did it as though all was at stake. When I reminded him that he had promised me my freedom on the 6th hour, I wanted it as badly as Mickey Mantle's signature on a baseball. And when I drew the boatman into the island, I thrilled at Prospero's line, "Thou shalt be free." And when at last it was done, and Prospero stepped to the edge of the stage to beg the audience to send its gentle breath to fill the sails of our freedom, I could hardly keep myself from trembling. Suppose they wouldn't fill the sails? "Our revels now are ended," Prospero had said. But when I walked on stage with the rest of the company for curtain calls, the revels felt like they had not ended. They were still ringing in the hands of the audience, who were all standing. Still ringing in the hands of Mrs. Baker, who was smiling at me, really. Still ringing in the hands of Mr. and Mrs. Hupfer, who were waving at me. Still ringing in the hands of Danny Hupfer and Merrilee and my Thee, who were standing in the very front row. Danny Hupfer and Merrilee and my Thee. I looked down at them, looking up at the bright yellow tights with the white feather on the butt, but they weren't looking at the yellow tights because they were all 3 crying. So that's number 2. They stood in the light from the footlamps, and their cheeks glistened with tears. Shakespeare can do that to you. They clapped and clapped and clapped and clapped, and Merrilee wiped at her eyes, and then suddenly in Danny Hupfer's eyes came this startled look, and there was a passion in his face that seemed to work him strongly, and it was Mickey Mantle. He pointed to his watch. 9:15, he mouthed, and he turned and waved desperately to his parents. And when the curtain came down, I could be free. I didn't wait for the audience's breath to fill my sails at all. I careened back behind the stage and around to the men's dressing room and found that it was locked. Locked. I pounded on the door. No one answered. I heard my name for another curtain call. I pounded on the dressing room door again. No one answered. I ran back into the wings desperate. Mr. Goldman was still on stage, bowing. It looked like he would be bowing for a while. But he had left Prospero's blue floral cape behind in the stage wings. So I grabbed it, flung it around my shoulders, and made for the elements, where my father would be waiting for what I hoped would be an illegally fast drive to the Baker Sporting Emporium store. I ran out the backstage door, and let me tell you, it had gotten a whole lot colder, and a cape, when you're just wearing yellow tights, doesn't help much, and sprinted around to the front of the festival theater. But my father wasn't there. I guess the Bing Crosby Christmas special wasn't over yet. Standing on the street in front of the festival theater in bright yellow tights and a blue floral cape covering white feathers on his butt, this was not an Ariel in a happy holiday spirit. I looked up and down the street. Not a single car was moving, except one, speeding away, Danny Hupfer's parents. I decided I would wait for my father for 5 minutes, so I counted 300 Mississippis. No car. People started to come out of the theater and point at me, and then the scent of diesel fumes came in on the breeze, which was cutting right through my floral cape, and the crosstown bus lumbered around the corner, gritty and grimy and the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. It even had plastic Christmas decorations hanging from its rearview mirror. I sprinted across the street, which probably looked pretty impressive with the blue cape flowing behind me, and stood at the festival theater bus stop. But I wasn't sure the bus was going to stop when the driver saw me. He went 2 or 3 bus lengths beyond the sign, and even after he stopped and I ran up, he didn't open the doors at first. The plastic Christmas decorations rocked back and forth while he looked at me like I had escaped from somewhere I shouldn't have escaped from. I counted another 15 Mississippis before he opened the doors. Who are you supposed to be, kid? John Wayne. John Wayne never wore tights in his life. I need to get to the Baker Sporting Emporium store. Well, John Wayne, do you have 30 cents for the bus? I reached into my pocket, which wasn't there. I didn't think so, said the bus driver. Please, I said, I need to get to the Baker Sporting Emporium store. Because Mickey Mantle is signing baseballs, right? Yes. He looked at his watch. You might make it if you had 30 cents. The quality of mercy is not strained, I said. He looked at me like I'd just spoken a foreign language. Please, I said. The driver shook his head. Okay, John Wayne. But this is the kind of stuff that gets bus drivers fired, giving free rides. And if it wasn't so cold out there, I'd close the door on you. And that's number 3. Did you know that when that cape is blowing out, people can see that you have white feathers on your... Yes, I said, and I took a seat on the bus. So we'll leave it there. I know you have 2 more questions, so I'll start up another video to finish off the rest of December Part 3.